Have you ever known all the right words, followed every single rule, and still felt this silence between you and someone you really love? It's a silence that can feel a mile wide. Well, this is a story about how to break through it. And before we dive in, if stories like this are your thing, please take a second to follow the channel and share this. It really truly helps us grow and lets me bring more of these stories to you. So let me tell you about Mateo and his grandmother, his abuela, Elena. For years, this quiet space had been growing between them, and it wasn't built on anger or anything like that. It was built on grammar. Mateo just wanted to understand the world inside her mind, the stories from her childhood or memories. But every time he tried, his textbook Spanish would just fall flat, right when it mattered the most. And one day, after another one of those frustrating attempts, she told him this. And that simple idea sent him on a journey to find out that the real heart of a language, well, it isn't always in the rulebook. You see, Mateo was a great student. He knew all the predictable verbs, the ones that behaved themselves, the ones that marched in a straight line like perfect little soldiers. Verbs like hablar, to speak, or comer, to eat, their endings changed exactly how you'd expect, so he could say what he was eating or where he lived, but he couldn't get to the heart of things. He couldn't really ask about her life in a way that felt real. Okay, so look at this. On the left, that's a regular verb. The core of the word, the stem, it never changes. But on the right, yeah, it's just chaos. To say I have, Mateo knew the verb was tener. So he'd say, yo tengo, and the conversation would just sort of die. His abuela would gently correct him. Tengo, my dear, tengo. He'd want to ask her, do you want to tell me a story? But the verb querer, to want, would twist itself into quiero. Every single time he tried to ask something important, he'd just run straight into a grammatical wall. That night, he'd had enough. He was so frustrated. He opened a brand new notebook, and he felt like he was about to go to war with this army of linguistic rebels. All these words that just refused to follow orders. He decided, okay, if I can't beat them, I'm going to understand them. He was going to map out every single rule breaker, every verb that had tricked him. He was going to figure out all their secrets. And this shows you exactly what he was up against. On one side, you have a soldier verb, like caminar, to walk. Look how clean that is. Camino, caminas, camina. It's logical, right? But on the other side, a rebel, the verb ir, to go. How in the world does ir become voy? It makes zero logical sense. It's a completely different word. This wasn't a pattern. This was just anarchy. And as Mateo started filling page after page in his notebook, he realized something really alarming. These rebels, they weren't the exception. They were everywhere. Verbs like ser, ir, dar, these were some of the very first words he'd ever learned. He realized this wasn't just a small group of outlaws. It was like a secret network running through the entire language. But as he stared at all these pages of messy verb charts, a new feeling started to creep in. Curiosity. He started thinking, wait, maybe this isn't just random chaos. Maybe these rebels have their own secret codes. Maybe they run in their own hidden gangs with their own secret rules. And just like that, his mission changed. He wasn't trying to defeat them anymore. He was trying to decode them. And then he found the first gang. He decided to call them the shapeshifters. These were the verbs where a vowel right in the middle of the word would just morph into something else entirely. The verb's core, its stem, wasn't stable at all. It would twist and change its shape. But here's the thing, it didn't do it all the time. So, take a look at querer. The E becomes EA for almost everyone. Quiero, quieres, quiere. But then, when you get to the we form, nosotros, all of a sudden, it's queremos. The verb just snaps right back to its original form. It's like it takes a break from its disguise when it's in a group. Same thing with poder, to be able to. It's puedo, but it's podemos. And that was the first code he cracked. The shapeshifters don't shift when it comes to we. Then he found an even sneakier group. He called them the Just Me Gang. These verbs, they acted completely normal. They followed all the rules right up until you started talking about yourself. The second you used the I form, the yo form, they'd put on this crazy disguise. Just look at hacer, to do. It's haces, hace, hacemos, totally regular. But for I, out of nowhere, it becomes hago. Where did that G come from? Or conocer, to know, which becomes conozco. It's like a secret identity that only comes out when the verb is speaking for itself. For everyone else, it just blends right in.
And he found other smaller gangs too, like the ones he called the silent infiltrators. These are verbs that end in yair, like construir, to build. And they do something really subtle. They quietly slip an extra letter, a ya, into their forms. Construyo, construyes. It's like a secret agent adding a coded message. It was a small change, but yep, another broken rule.
So, after days of mapping out all these rebel codes, Mateo finally leaned back and just looked at his notebook. I mean, it was a total mess of arrows and circles and notes. But it was a beautiful mess. And as he scanned his list of the biggest, most chaotic, most rule-breaking verbs he could find, this huge question just hit him. He asked himself a really simple question. He looked at the words he needed the most, the ones he desperately wanted to use to talk to his abuela. The words for being, for having, for doing, going, and saying. What did all of these absolutely essential fundamental words have in common? The answer hit him like a lightning bolt. Every single one of them was irregular. They were all rebels. The very verbs that broke the most rules were the exact same verbs that the language simply could not live without. To be, to have, to do, to go, these aren't just words. They're the building blocks of how we connect with each other, and none of them follow the rules. And in that moment, he finally got it. The language isn't messy just to be difficult. It's messy because life is messy. To talk about being alive and doing things requires verbs that have lived, verbs that have changed over centuries, verbs that just don't fit into neat little boxes. That evening, Mateo went to find his abuela. He left the notebook in his room. He wasn't thinking about grammar or verb stems anymore. He was just thinking about her. He took a deep breath and he chose his words. Not from a rule book, but from his heart. Quiero, the shapeshifter, the rebel, the exact word that had made him so frustrated for so long. But this time, it just felt right. It wasn't a rule he was following, it was a feeling he was sharing. And when he saw his grandmother's smile, he knew he had finally said the right thing. He hadn't conquered the rebels, he had joined them. He had learned to speak their language. So it leaves us with this final thought, doesn't it? When we're really trying to connect with someone, what's more important? The sterile perfection of following all the rules, or the messy, beautiful, and heartfelt exceptions where life actually happens? If this story moved you or made you think, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And be sure to follow the channel for more stories like this.